The average threat actor is in a network for at least 90 days. In 2020, I think that they said it was up to 164 days that the threat actor was in the network. What could you do in 164 days inside somebody's network? Could you recreate it? Ask yourself, could you from log files recreate patient 0 164 days ago? Because if you haven't found patient 0, whether you pay the ransom or don't pay the ransom, you're probably going to get hit again. If you've never found out how they got in, you're probably going to get hit again. We have to move away from a model of what they used to call the perimeter model for security. We're now to what they're calling zero trust. You know, that's been, I think, every major security conference for the last 3 years has been talking about the zero trust model, is that it's not about how much data you have, it's do you classify your data. And I'm not talking about the DoD classifications, is it secret, top secret, or unclassified. I'm saying, do you know where your crown jewels are? We get called in to do incident response and we're like, okay, let's figure out, they're like, oh, we really want to make sure they didn't get this intellectual property, it's over here. We're like, okay, so we're going to look around and make sure that this is okay. And then we have a second team that's going, are you sure that's the only place that intellectual property is on your network? And they're like, yes, we're very positive. We're like, do you mind if we scan your network and look around? And guess what? More often than not, I'm going to say 90% of the time, we find at least 12 to 15 other duplicates of that intellectual property on other people's machines. People who copied it off in order to do work with it. People who moved it in order to, because it was a legacy drive or a legacy system or they needed it for a project. People who had access to things, paper copies of it laying around. So we're saying, you've been securing, you put all of your security around your crown jewels over here, but they were also here, 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 and here, and you have no security over there. So it's not about how much data you have, it's do you know what data is valuable to you? You know, a lot of people might say, well, the bad guys don't know what's valuable to you either. They're just going to pull everything. And maybe if you have so much data on your network, you're going to notice them pulling the data off. Like they pulled 100 gigs off of Colonial Pipeline. You know, would you notice 100 gigs going out your door? You know, it's more about, are you flagging, are you monitoring, are you looking for what's important to you? And too often when we get called in, people are like, I want to know if they took anything important for us. We're like, okay, what's important to you? And they're like, well, you tell us. I was like, well, I can't tell you what's important to you. I don't know your business model, you know, and people don't even know what's important to them. They don't know that Bob is the person who knows how to do everything, and if Bob retires, nobody else can do that. They don't know that this system over here is actually operational and the key to everything. Got a funny story about that. I'll do it real fast, I know. Working with a company, actually the state government in North Carolina, and they were telling us this story about how they were leasing a building in downtown North Carolina, and they decided they wanted to own the property, they wanted to buy a different property, move their entire operations to this other building. So they cut the lease. They said at the end of this year, we're moving everybody over to our new facility. They moved all the IT equipment, they moved all the people, they kept the redundant connection up, kept everything talking till the day that it was finalized, and they cut that connection, their entire system went down. So they immediately put the connection back, trying to figure things out, can't figure out what's going on because everything comes back up. And so they sit there and they keep doing that. Every time they cut the connection, their systems go down. Their entire network keeps going down, they can't figure it out. And somebody says, you know what? Bob is the one who designed this. Bob retired 5 years ago. Let's call Bob, maybe Bob knows. Luckily, Bob was still around and Bob said, yeah. He goes, okay. So where'd you put the dish? And they're like, what dish? He's like, well, the one that sits up on top of the roof, you know, that big monolith up there. And they're like, well, we didn't bring that over. That's legacy. We don't need that anymore. He's like, without that dish, the system doesn't run. That dish ties everything together. Bob's the only one who knew that because Bob designed it. And so without that, if Bob hadn't been willing to give them that information, it would have taken them a long time to figure that out. A lot of times organizations don't know what's important to them. They don't know that a thermometer in a fish tank in their lobby can cause them problems. You know, when I did pen testing, my favorite way was through HVAC systems. I would own your HVAC system, I'd own your network. You know, everything on your network can be a potential problem. You have to figure out what's important to you. You can't, as the general said, you can't protect everything, but you can protect the things that you think are critical. Zero trust model. Don't trust anything. Protect the things that you have to. Let everything else go. Because it's no longer a matter of if you're going to get hit, it's when you're going to get hit. And it's no longer a matter of when you're going to get hit, it's how fast can you respond. How fast can you keep your business up and operational? How fast can you get things moved around and make the impact lessen, not just for yourself, but for everybody else? All right, thank you very much. I had a good time.